Thanks for staying with us. When you get such minds in studio, the conversation continues even during the break. We hope a bit of that will come out even as we wrap this up. These are some of your thoughts this evening. Hashtag is Newsnight. SMS line 22422. Okay, let's look at some of those tweets. Let's see. Engineer Lazaro Kanyambok, you say nothing much has changed from the ground. Major tribes will still vote along tribal lines. The rest will follow the euphoria. Okay, Engineer, that's your view this evening. Chester Nyantika, you say pollsters may be partially correct, but cannot entirely be relied upon to give a clear picture on what will happen on the material day. Further still, it depends who's this pollster. Are they neutral or are they an agent of propaganda?
Fair enough.
Okay. Joel Mutatai Jr., you say, what does Honorable Kabando mean when he says Oka needs a miracle? Don't understand that. Maybe from an earlier comment. Okay. Joel, he'll respond to that. Kiplating Manuela, you say running mate position will not have a significant impact on the 2022 polls. The elections will be about ideologies, not sharing positions. Okay, very optimistic. And Buffalo Dash, you say poll outcomes are usually true. The problem is that Kenyans have learned to fear and criticize polls even if they favor them. This is because it might favor one today, 6 months later, it doesn't favor you. So one is better off criticizing the polls back and forth, good or bad.
Well said.
Very interesting. We have one more. Oh, Nyamogi Gog, you say it's great to see my former boss there, Tom Wolf, dissecting possibilities. I agree with him that the first candidate to identify a running mate will give the second candidate an easy move to make a balanced choice. However, both cannot come from the same place. Okay, that's what Nyamogi believes. Kabando, time for predictions as we wrap this up. What are the possible running mates that some of the candidates you feel this evening are thinking about?
I think there is a possibility that one candidate is depending on the state house endorsement of a running mate for assurances of the deep state support, and with the mirage that there will be a repeat of the past elections and rigging. Then there is increasing interest for
You're being very vague this evening. There's you don't have to be forced to present proof.
I'm coming there, Wahiga. Okay. Because I think when we have another session, I hope in future, we'll talk about the politics of deception.
Yeah.
Because that is what is happening.
Yeah.
There's a lot of deception and a lot of lies among even politicians themselves, to the extent that they are not speaking boldly about factors that should cause the election to go this direction or the other. And you know, you ask about the running mate.
And you're not answering my question. So let me be more specific. Raila Odinga, what do you think are the possibilities for a running mate for him this evening? What names are you hearing?
The first name I've heard very, very widely is of Wangari Karua, mother. And the people who are talking about Mother Karua, and I'm talking about people across ethnic divide, are looking for individual who can be a deputy president with the potential to execute reformist agenda, because that has been lost. So the name of Mother is going around very much. And I know is that the serious discussions among many players, and let me just not say more than that. That is being mentioned. For William Ruto, I don't know the possibility of his running mate, you know, but people said he may think that he has the mountain behind him, by and large, and he could poke the coast by going to Kwale and getting the governor, Mvoria, to be with him. There are also whispers that a Musalia candidature is still on the table, with again a possibility of Mother Karua being a running mate for Musalia. I remember Musalia's comment at Safari Park when they went to Oka, went to meet the Mount Kenya Foundation. And I don't think it was careless. Musalia is a very calculated individual. So, but the running mate factor will not mobilize the ethnic vote. So, to get someone like Mother as a running mate for either Musalia or Raila will not necessarily translate into an ethnic vote. But it also should not be lost to people that the fact that Raila is endorsed by Uhuru and that Ruto is a sitting or incumbent deputy president at a time when the country is going in the wrong direction according to opinions of many people. And at a time when he's saying he's still afraid to Uhuru. And then Raila says we have the assurance, particularly if you go by the statement of Oburu, his brother, that the deep state's with them. So many things can happen. The only saving grace for Oka, in my view, is if they were to get a serious candidature of the like of Musalia, and you jump from 1 or 2% rating that is being given by Tom Wolf at the company.
Do you believe his ratings 100%?
Yes.
Do you believe those ratings 100%?
No, the rating was, I think, 2.
No, personally,
yeah.
Do you believe those ratings?
Yes.
You have no questions about opinion
for the time being, I have read this report. I have read this survey. And for once, looking at it and, you know, the variables they have used, I think it's very credible. It's very credible.
I hope 6 months from now you won't have a different view.
And it was
I hope 6 months from now you...
I can change.
It was very similar to the Radio Africa poll also.
Okay. You can change.
I can change depending. But before you get off me, these individuals who are frontliners, without personalizing, who is talking about Agenda 4? Who is talking about defending the Constitution? Who is talking about implementing the Dongo report on land grabbing? Who is talking about TJRC? Who is talking about mental health? Do you know the Guardian newspaper of United Kingdom, London, about a month ago, had a lead story on mental health in Kenya, that in the second quarter of this year, that is April, May, and June, 500 people committed suicide. Of those 500, about 95% are young people. Of those 95%, about 95% again of them are males. The question of masculinity. Who is addressing that issue? Do you know for the first time since Kenya became, there has never been the crisis that is in the universities. In the University of Nairobi, insolvent. Kenyatta University, insolvent. Egerton University, insolvent. Moi University, insolvent. And that 1,790 students, government-sponsored students, didn't report this semester the University of Nairobi. People are struggling with the school fees. So before we talk about 6,000, or we talk about giving a wheelbarrow, are we talking about the reformist agenda that will anchor the change that was globally attractive to our country because of the optimism and the hope I was talking about? So if you are not talking about mental health, you are not talking about how to reform higher education and laws board, you are not talking about how to restructure and make sure that these commissions, have you not seen commissioners? Constitutional commissions are in the Constitution of Kenya 2010 supposed to be independent. Aren't you seeing commissioners going to campaign? Aren't you seeing the offices declared illegal by courts, the chief administrative secretaries, just spending all their time campaigning, or even cabinet secretaries? Anyone who gives a promise, and that's why I say, I don't want to mention mother many times, if you can get somebody who was not part of the BBI fraud, to even come and moderate and compliment a little bit, just like we had the Liberal Party from Kanu, Kasarani ilipokuwa Kisirani, coming with the National Alliance Party of Kenya, NAC, or Moi Kibaki Wamaro Adigiru. Then we have a rainbow of political pragmatism, that person who has the muscle, who has the political numbers, and then a figure at the top who can be torch bearer for reform and change. That is what we need on the Eastern horizon. Today, not yesterday.
I'll take that as your parting shot. Simeha, let's get your final thoughts on this.
Thank you very much, Wahiga. I absolutely agree with my brother Kabando that partly people may not acknowledge this, that there are people like Musalia who have hardly begun to campaign. And if they can, if Honorable Musalia can think strategically and rebrand himself, first of all, because the so-called safe hands is a very tired brand. and the so-called Pesam Fukon is a very tired brand. But if he can rebrand himself and get the right combination in terms of a running mate, that's where there could be a difference.
True.
I don't necessarily mean that that difference means getting the presidency, because the presidency is beyond just the number of votes. It's much more than that. There are other forces that determine. But in terms of the transition we need in this country, there's a real possibility that someone like Musalia with the right running mate could cause a real scare.
It's true.
A real scare.
It's true.
And it's not about numbers, but it's about the combination and the message he carries. I am in absolute agreement that 1, healthcare and wellness, 2, education. Me, I would like to add agriculture. I should have perhaps begun with the political system. That's where you talk about corruption and whatnot. The corrupt, broken political system that we have in this country. Forget these promises, how amounts of money we will give, revive Mumia Sugar, and I don't know what. That's, for me, I'm sorry, but crap. I really don't think it's going to change this country. I think there's excessive excitement that we will deliver this, deliver that, deliver that. We've been told about these stadiums. What are they called? Computers for kids in schools. We've been told about dams and so on. Do we have them? No. These project-based promises, I don't think they're going to cut anything. They're not going to wash anything. But I think if one wants to appeal really to the sentiments and feelings of Kenyans, it has to be something radically different. And I think, you know, a third force, there is still a possibility, because this third force has hardly begun to campaign. William Ruto has been campaigning forever.
What are they doing?
I don't know why they are not campaigning. I should hope that they can spring onto the scene and begin to campaign and begin to brand themselves and give people some hope that you know, they are a serious force that can present a real possibility in terms of managing and transition for this country. I'm using the word transition deliberately because we aborted our political stock governance transition in Kenya. What we have now, the predominant forces are status quo forces. They're totally status quo. And well, they may be the ones that win the presidency. But you see, there are other candidates that can pose a real threat to presenting with us some hope for the future. And you make a combination of this candidate and a running mate that is not dependent on a small group of interests, people who hold interests. They can present to us a real possibility that the nation can see hope in rallying us to the next level. Let me just close by saying this, Wahiga. That is, it shouldn't be about just this coming election. That's always a mistake we make as a nation. Candidates make that they focus on this election and it's either this or nothing. It should be about this and the next election. Okay, thank you. We'll take that as your parting shot. Tom, both of them have taken a bit of your time.
That's so okay, I can be brief. And just reflecting some of the comments that came in from your viewers and what both of my friends here have said. I think one of the challenges of using survey research, call them polls if you want, in a democracy, is that ideally this kind of information should empower citizens to both express their views, to identify issues that they feel are the most important, but also empower them in the sense of knowing what or which ones of the choices that may be out there are more viable or credible in terms of actually winning an election. And in that sense, sometimes leave aside these questions about you know, rigged polls or biases and so on and so forth. In one way, in terms of democratic theory, or this democratic empowerment that polls should, one problem is if they're too accurate in the sense that not only are they scientific and they've been conducted in a proper way, but if people believe them, showing somebody's, say, well ahead in a race or whatever, then some people might give up. I think what Kabando said is actually absolutely true, that and also what Sameka just said about game changers with a third force and so on and so forth. I think to the extent that consumers, starting with you people in the media, who have to make the choice whenever you see a poll, do you publish or broadcast it or not, but to the extent that you are willing to convey these survey results to citizens, again, the democratic sort of theory challenges, does that empower citizens more to know what the realistic choices are, or does it imprison them in a status quo where they don't, they're not prepared to think outside the box? What would happen if an unknown candidate or pair or party appeared on the scene? And it's very, very difficult to ask people in a survey, well, what if so-and-so announces to be a candidate? And what if Wahiga declares that he wants to run for governor of Nairobi? Would you, because that's
impossible.
Because it's not in public. People can't imagine it because it's not there on the table. It's very difficult for people to go into a restaurant and order until they see the menu, because they don't know what the cooks are actually prepared, what they're preparing in the kitchen. So in one sense, as I say, poll results, if they're accurate, they can be empowering in giving people a more realistic idea of what the choices are, but they can also be constraining. That's why we always say polls cannot predict the future. They can only tell us, if they're good, what the situation is at the time the survey was done. But we can't say tomorrow, as Emeka was saying, what those options might be and what kind of appeal they'll have for people who are actually making decisions about the country's future direction.
I like that last phrase about what polls can or cannot do, and we'll take that as your parting shot. This is what a few Kenyans are saying using the SMS line 22422. K. Obare says, come August 2022, barring a miracle, the country is poised for a radical change, okay? Nixon Dugire kutoka Kindaruma is asking Tom, how do you feel when your poll analysis predictions are very far from the truth?
They never are.
They never are.
No. They should give one example.
Okay, Nixon, give one example. Somebody else says, we don't want a leader who will cause development in 2022. We want a leader who will sit, relax, and address corruption. Okay, that's one.
Good. True.
Kabando, you agree with that?
True.
And Wahiga, I just want to say about that, a leader who, to me, if they don't address Vihiga County issues, local issues,
yes,
then they mean nothing to Vihiga people.
Okay.
If they cannot address the theft and corruption in Vihiga County,
Wahiga,
they mean nothing.
On corruption, let's admit that we are so rotten, we are so corrupt, and I don't mean Kenyans, I mean we, the political class, the leaders who are wielding power, that you'll most unlikely, out of 10, get one person at the top of the leadership who is without blemish of corruption. And that's why we need to be practical. In the next year manifestos, we can talk about reparations, forgiveness, and then a restart button. Otherwise, if we cease to radically cause a surgery against graft merchants, all these guys at the top will be in committee.
And they should.
They should. That's what I'm saying.
When you say political class, you're including yourself?
Practically, no. I mean,
yes.
and I know, because I'm in the political class,
yes,
and I've been there. Reparations and amnesty are practical solutions to ensure that you can restart a country.
I was finishing before you jumped in. Now you're... Okay. Can we finish?
Yes.
And we're done. Tom, we're done. Thank you so much to each of my guests. We have had Joseph Simeha. He's a political strategist. Kabando, former MP Mokorwine, and of course Tom Wolf, who's an independent research analyst, just helping us understand what the numbers are saying, what the trends could be, but stating that polls don't predict the future. Maybe they'll give you, if done properly, a picture of what's happening right now. But the future is in the hands of Kenyans, and here on Newsnight, we will endeavor to keep updating you on what is happening on the political front as and when we get that information. But we have to wrap up this show. So on behalf of the whole team that's made this broadcast possible, thank you so much for tuning in. Our sign language interpreter this evening has been Joki Shege. We'll see you again soon. Remember, we do this every Tuesday from 9 p.m. here on Citizen TV. My name is Wahiga Mwaura. Have a good night. Stay safe. Goodbye.